Shafe, as you kind of get ready, I know that doesn't quite raise to the standards of Vikings draft day, but as you get ready for the Saturday festivities in Lincoln, I mean, is that like how are you approaching this as opposed to a more traditional spring game? Obviously, I wouldn't think you're expecting to garner much in terms of information, but like just as a guy that covers the team, I'm curious how you're approaching it.
I mean, I'm not approaching it any differently than I would a practice, which is we'll see what we're allowed to watch and what happens when we're allowed to watch it and who we're allowed to talk to afterwards and what they choose to say. I mean, I like that's a really glib sort of dumb answer, but there's really not a whole lot more that I can offer. We really haven't experienced anything quite like this. I don't know what Saturday is going to be. I don't have a lot of anticipation that I'm going to walk away feeling strongly about any particular aspect about Nebraska football than I did coming into it because I just don't think I'm going to take much from Saturday, which is fine. Like it's not about me. It's not about the media coverage of it. It's about whether they're happy with the 15 practices that they put forward for this spring. I mean, that's ultimately, do they get to where they wanted to be at the end of the spring? Do they have answers for personnel? Do they feel good about the guys that they've hired and where things are headed? Those are the big things. And some of that can be answered and some of it can't. And so I don't think anything that happens on Saturday should be large on anyone's radar for Nebraska football moving forward. They're not going to win a game in the fall this year because of anything that occurs during the Husker games on Saturday. And I don't think we should make too much of it one way or the other.
Shafe, so is there any interest at all in kind of where guys may be or situationally, kind of why they're doing what they do? Like, for instance, if a guy like, Genatone wants to play some running back on Saturday to show some value there, or maybe a offensive guy goes to defense or vice versa or whatever. Like, is there kind of any interest there for you in terms of what the real cut line is, who's where, kind of what guys are willing to do to make sure they're in like that final, whatever, 8 to 10?
Uh, if there was like a condensed list that was passed out, which they're not going to do, but if like I knew who they were really sort of clued in on for these final few spots, yeah, that could be really dramatic. That in itself would be a fascinating thing to cover. We're not going to get that. We're not going to be given the sort of answers, if you will, about who's really fighting for what spots and what's going to make them stand out. So yeah, I mean, there's the intrigue of, okay, can this person make himself more valuable in different ways or whatever it is. But again, without knowing what was occurring in the previous 14 practices with these individuals, I don't want to just assume if a guy has a nice day on Saturday, April 26th, that he's guaranteed for the 105 or that he's destined for stardom at Nebraska or anything of that nature. So there's going to be intrigue about what this all looks like and if guys line up in different spots or if they're trying to maximize their value, whether it's at Nebraska or for a future suitor. There's certainly going to be intrigue in that regard. But what it actually means for the program, I think is going to be really hard to suss out.
So, Shafe, I'm curious. I'm going to switch gears here on you a little bit. DB and I were talking sort of in passing earlier about returning Big Ten quarterbacks and where Nebraska sort of fell in that pecking order as we're,
Yeah.
Obviously Nico's not a returning quarterback to UCLA, but he's at least a somewhat known commodity, having played last year. As you kind of start to get a more complete picture of the Big Ten quarterback, I guess, landscape, where does Dylan fall in that for you?
It's tough because I admittedly kind of go into like almost Big Ten hibernation mode where I haven't thought a lot about some of these other teams and what they have coming back. I mean, I know that Drew Aller will be at Penn State. Obviously aware of Jaden Maivia
SC.
at SC. I mean, there's different people that you're familiar with because Nebraska either played them or that they're out there. And then there's just some teams like I don't know what Purdue is doing. I don't know what Minnesota is doing. Mark Gronowski is over at Iowa.
You got to like.
Northwestern.
Do you like Damon Williams at Washington? He may be one of the better kept secrets. I think.
I guess
I think he's going to be pretty good.
I don't have strong opinions yet on it. I mean, with so much player movement, and then when you get hyper focused the way that we do when you cover Nebraska, like I just honestly can't offer a great assessment of what's happening around the conference because I haven't really thought about it in that sense. I mean, I know that Nebraska is going to have some interesting guys on their schedule, but I haven't really begun to think about like where Dylan might fall on the list of Big Ten quarterbacks, in large part because I don't know yet what type of Dylan Raiola I think we're going to see for a sophomore year. I mean, what sort of jump? I mean, is this a guy that can go up 2 levels? Is this a guy going up 1 level? Is this a guy going up half a level? Is Nebraska going to find more success in the running game so it's less reliant on Dylan Raiola than it was at times last year? So some of it is he's still very much an undecided as to what he is. I think that the toolbox is full with what he can do, but we don't know what that picture is ultimately going to look like. And I don't even know that the end of last year with Dana Holgorsen told us what it's going to look like, because you had games like Iowa where he was a little bit tentative in the pocket or he wasn't making plays when he had some opportunities and a great defense. You had games like Wisconsin where he took advantage of a porous secondary and they were able to move the ball all over the field. You had USC where you had a little good, a little bad. You had Boston College where I think it was mostly good, but the conditions weren't great. He couldn't hit the ball down the field. I mean, so there's just so much unknown about Dylan Raiola that I think he could easily end up in the upper echelon of Big Ten quarterbacks, but he could also just sort of be middle of the pack. We just don't know what kind of growth, and we're expecting growth. And I would be surprised if he took a step back. But we just don't know what level. I mean, because it'd be too reductive or simplistic to say he's going to be a little bit better or he's going to be a lot of bit better, because there's so much around him that's changing too.
Shay, is it important? So it's kind of in the nitty gritty, and I get it because we are hyper focused on Nebraska. But like, how important is or isn't it? Like, does he need to be better than Julian Sands or Keinholz or whomever starts at Ohio State? Or does he need to be better than Drew Altmaier
or Drew Aller or Luke Altmaier?
Yeah, I confused my first names. Does he need to be better than Altmaier at Illinois? Like, at some point, the teams that you're going against, I guess, head to head would probably matter more than its totality in the conference as a whole, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess the really stupid way that I'm going to answer this is that I think he just needs to be better than what he was last year. His competition is himself. I don't think it needs to be an outward thing. I don't think he has to worry about competing against other Big Ten quarterbacks. I think if he can be better than he was last year, if he can show a little bit more decisiveness when he wants to run the football out of the pocket, if he has a little bit more touch when he's able to throw downfield, he's able to read defenses faster at the line of scrimmage. If he could recognize things like early in the second half against UCLA when he should have saw Fedoni up the seam and he didn't, and he instead tries to force his ball, and it's a game-changing interception return for a touchdown. I mean, I don't care about Dylan versus the rest of the conference. I care about Dylan versus Dylan. If he's better than the version last year, Nebraska's going to be better. I don't think that's like a really tough or ridiculous hot take by any means. I think if he's improving upon what he was, if Dylan Raiola as a sophomore in September is better than the guy as a freshman in September that we were all pretty impressed by, I think that's arrow up for Nebraska as a program as a whole. I think that's arrow up for what that offense can be as a whole. And I think it shows you that, Dylan Raiola isn't just this guy who has a bunch of tools and was capable of playing as a freshman. It shows you that he's going to continue to grow and get better, that he didn't come in and be what he is for multiple years, that there's progress there. And so I think the comparison, the only player or person that he needs to be worried about, and I'm sure this is what the case is himself.
Yeah.
Schaefer, as you look at the situation with Dana and Dylan, and maybe the semantics of it don't matter, but I'm curious if we see a version of Dylan that's better than last year. How much of it do you think will be a credit to Dylan getting better, and how much of it do you think will be a credit to Dana and the way his offense tends to make things easy on quarterbacks?
I think that has to work hand in hand. I mean, I think like we should be able to see moments in 2025 where Dylan's processing is better than it was last year. And it was good. I mean, I don't think he gets enough credit for what he did last year as it is, because Nebraska goes 7-6. It's up and down. The offense is up and down. And yet that was an 18-year-old, 19-year-old playing his first college football, having to do all of that on the fly, facing different defenses and the best conference in the country. I mean, it was the best conference in the country last year. And he's doing this for the first time. And so I think he doesn't get enough credit for what he did last year. So if we see improvement upon that, I definitely think it's going to be a continuation of his own growth as a player, but also just an offensive coordinator who might be better tapped into utilizing his skill set, or an offensive coordinator that is really good at counterpunching. I think one of the things that Dana Holgorsen is going to be able to do for Nebraska, and has stood out to me when he talks, is that he doesn't care about the style of what it looks like. If a team's going to load the box, then he's going to throw to the edges of the field and beat them that way. If a team is spread out completely, then he's going to have 4 wide receivers and run Emmett Johnson up the middle. And so I think the fact that you have a counterpuncher as an offensive coordinator that can look at what the defense is doing and come up with ideas for how the offense can continue to move the ball is going to help Dylan Raiola grow in his game. It's going to help Nebraska overall. And so it has to be in conjunction. I don't think it could ever have just been Dana's here, he gets the 2024 version of Dylan, and he's that much better now. He's going to get 2025 Dylan, and 2025 Dylan gets to work off of what he learned as a player, and now he gets to have Dana Holgorsen as a play caller. And that's kind of, if you're high on Nebraska and what they can be in 2025, it's that relationship and those two working off of each other that gives Nebraska a pretty high floor offensively, I think.
So, Schaefer, how much of what you you envision happening, or you're trying to project that's going to happen? I want to go over to the other side of the ball, because it's strange. Holgorsen gets a lot of it's not even benefit of the doubt. His track record lends itself to us saying, I already like the quarterback's talents. He's with a proven offensive coordinator. Okay, I kind of like I trust the direction the offense is moving. We're obviously a little more reluctant defensively. But is it because of the people coaching the defense, or is it because they have so many movable pieces? Is it both? Like, why does offense get in your opinion, more of the benefit of the successful doubt than defensively?
Who would be the offensive equivalent or the defensive equivalent of Dylan Raiola and Emmett Johnson right now? Because, I mean, you have two guys that are flash individuals on offense. I don't think we can say that.
Okay, this might be blasphemy, but I don't think the production from Dylan warrants any more of the benefit of the doubt than, let's say, Van Poppel or Sierra Wright, or even in his limited role, even Javen Wright. And in my opinion, is it because, and listen, I think Dylan is going to be really, really good. I am a little surprised that statistically, I get the 71%, but the 13-11, the holding the ball a little, like we have. He way gets the benefit of the doubt, and I do think he's going to be good. I'm just surprised that some of the defensive flashes that we've seen, like those guys don't, because I think they're comparable.
Can I give you an obvious pushback, though?
Yeah, for sure.
Just look at the total number of plays Dylan has
over 500
to do
snaps
versus any of those defense. It's not even close.
Yeah, that's legit.
So small sample size. Sierra Wright's was incredible last year, but does that mean that he is going to be incredible over a
but
larger
you also
run?
have so let me give you one right back. So with over 500 snaps as a freshman, 13 to 11 touchdowns to interceptions is ample enough time to not have it be a one-off, if you want to look at it that way. Fair?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I think some of it is the construct of, as a quarterback, you're also reliant on what you have around you. You're reliant on the play call and the situations and everything else. 13-11, I don't look at that as, oh man, Dylan should have had 8 more touchdowns because of this, and this. I more view it as emblematic of that was an offense that really struggled to finish drives and to finish with touchdowns instead of field goals attempts. And Dylan's a part of that. But so is the scheme. So are the receivers being able to get open or make plays when they are open or finish when it's 50-50 ball and come away with the touchdown catch instead of the interception. So it's reliant on that too. I guess when I look at it defensively, and it's also still part of a system, you need the other 10 guys around you to be a good defensive player. I don't know that there's any player yet that I think has the upside that we think Dylan Raiola has defensively. And maybe there are, and I'm as high on Riley Van Poppel as anybody, but we still need to see it for a longer duration of time. And we need to see it kind of break through more than it has. Same with Javen Wright. I think Javen Wright is a comparable to like an Emmett Johnson, where
that's
emergence,
what I would give.
In an emergence sort of thing, like those guys came on really strong in a limited opportunity. Let's see what it looks like when they get more. What does Emmett Johnson look like with a starter's workload for 12 games? What does a healthy Wright look like and on defense for 12 games? I mean, that could be a really fascinating player, but we really haven't been able to see that. He did it mostly in 2023, and we saw he was a bit of an eraser. I mean, that guy made plays, but does that mean, can we get that? And there's guys on defense I'm really excited. Like Willis McGahee is someone that I am very, very excited about. Like I think there is a ton of upside.
I mean, isn't Shavers Emmett?
Yeah, and that's another one too. Like there's all of these guys, but there's not, like, you don't have someone that has a wealth of experience defensively aside from Deshaun Singleton and Malcolm Hartzog, I guess, have played multiple seasons. But even then, Singleton's missed time or he wasn't a starter initially. Hartzog has kind of bounced around roles. Like I feel like there's a lot of question marks and guys that haven't had the full run of opportunity on defense in a way that makes me as comfortable yet as where I think the offense is, which is weird because it's not like the offense lit the world on fire.
Schaefer, is there, kind of talking about this benefit of the doubt and who should and shouldn't get it, is there somebody that we haven't really talked about on either side of the ball that you're giving the benefit of the doubt to based on what you've seen that you just don't think is either getting that type of run normally?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we do a pretty good job of talking about literally everyone on the roster. So I always find it kind of fun when you have to come up with deep sleepers or under the radar people, because it's kind of hard to get under the radar in this environment.
I'm looking for deep cuts, Schaefer.
Like I'm intrigued by, and this is more just a me thing. It doesn't mean that I've seen it yet, but like a Quinn Clark or a Keelan Smith, like they're further down the pecking order on the wide receiver room. But it doesn't mean that I'm not interested in what they're able to do. Well, Mekhi Nelson, I'm very interested in, but we've talked about him. Like even a Kenneth Williams, we've talked about him in the sense that he's looked pretty good in the limited time that media's been over there, and he's smooth catching the ball, and they obviously like him. I think he's part of the running back depth there. Defensively, you can kind of get deeper into the secondary. Like I want to know more about a Justin Rhett, because I think he's someone that was brought in December that you kind of just forgot about him. And now we've had a limited amount of time. We've been over there in the spring, and I've seen him running around, but I can't say that I know what he is as a safety. Is he a center field type guy? Is he coming up in the box and making plays? I mean, so there's people that I'm very curious about that I think are going to have roles, but I don't know that there's anyone that has been like under discussed relative to what their impact might be in 2025. I think we do a pretty good job of taking the fine comb through everything with Nebraska's roster.
So let me get to Nebraska's portals additions or subtractions or whatever. I don't know how many guys are going to be go either way, but clearly, the one that's on the radar for everybody locally is Marty Brown. You're pretty plugged into some of the aforementioned schools he's connected with. What are you hearing as it with regards to how you think this week plays out? Will he or won't he be at practice? Because I'd like to say I would know better, but I don't. What are we thinking there, Schaefer, as you try to connect the dots?
Yeah, I mean, today he's expected to be in Miami, and like to kind of put it in a pretty simple way, Miami wants to finish this recruitment when he's on campus today. Yeah. Like Miami is motivated for Brown to leave and just know that he's going to be a future Hurricane. Like they want him. They want him that much. Whether he's going to do that or not, because he has other opportunities, whether it's, potentially seeing what Nebraska is interested in with him, or Cal, who's shown a lot of interest and doesn't have a running back room to speak of right now. I mean, he has legitimate opportunities. I mean, there's Kansas State out there where he has connections. So for me personally, I don't know how he fits in the Nebraska equation. Unless he just desires to be a Husker more than he desires the opportunity that he's going to find outside of Lincoln, I don't see this as a fit where it's going to work for both sides with what he ultimately can get. And I think Miami is going to be willing to offer a good amount of NIL. I think they view him as a future starting running back in that program behind a couple guys they have that are older right now, but they want him as part of their three-headed rotation that they're going to run down there. And like I said, Cal is looking for its starting running back out of the transfer portal. So, Nebraska inviting him to a practice doesn't signify the same thing as these other programs kind of going after him. And so that's not to say that Nebraska needs to be doing more. It knows what its room is better than everybody on the outside. So if they're comfortable, if they have it running back and they don't feel like Brown is a significant upgrade, then they're responding and such. And he's going to respond and make the decision that's best for him. Even when he went in and the initial buzz sort of happened, it felt like it was going to be a tough fit for me, because I could see where Nebraska would look at a Quentin Ives and think, what's the difference between him and Brown? I mean, Ives didn't have the opportunity to contribute at North Dakota State. Like that's the big difference here. But they really believe in that running back room. Good or bad, they have a lot of confidence in that running back room. And they have for several years. And we just haven't seen it manifest in the way that I think they believe in over there. And that's sort of why I don't think Brown will end up with Nebraska either.
So you don't think the interest in Marty Brown is in any way an indictment of how they feel about the current room?
No. I just get the sense that they would be happy to take him if it works out, but I don't think when Nebraska has wanted someone in the transfer portal, you have seen it in a certain way. And I don't think we're seeing that with him. And so I just have a tough time imagining that this shifts in such a way where Nebraska is going to be his best option, because I think he's got a lot of good options. And I think that he knows that. And I think his representation knows that.
So in your mind, if it doesn't end up being Brown, you don't think Nebraska is going to go back to the portal and search for another running back?
No, I think it's either Brown or they're not taking another running back.
Okay.
Like I think they genuinely like their room. Now, could I be wrong? Sure, but we have pretty good coverage of things over at 24/7. You've seen running backs committing to other schools. You haven't really seen Nebraska's name linked to anybody. I mean, even Shamar Brown, like if he wasn't from Omaha, Nebraska wouldn't be linked to him. Like that's just a reality of it. So I just don't see them looking into the portal for a running. They didn't do it in December and January. I don't know why they would do it now. I genuinely think they believe in what they have in that running back room.
Schaefer, let me get you out on this. Is there from a special teams in the third phase of the game, obviously. Any take anything you're interested in, considering it was such a critical part of Nebraska's outcomes a year ago, that you think you can glean?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to take anything away right now. Um, the optimist in me, the real tiny little bit of me that believes in positivity, doesn't think it can get any worse than Nebraska's special teams last year. So I think having a new voice and a new operation system and new teaching and new ideas, I think that's all good for Nebraska. And so I am going to provide a long runway in order to be able to assess how things have gone for Mike Eckler. It worked immediately for him when he went to Tennessee, and I don't want to just assume that's going to be the case at Nebraska too. But I am genuinely excited about what he could do and the turnaround we could see, because it was really bad last year. I just don't think there's any way that you can say it other than it was really, really bad. I mean, it was everything from not being able to cover punts, and your gunners were so far removed from where they needed to be because they couldn't get off of blocks, to you couldn't set up simple returns, to you couldn't block on not even full on punt block from other teams. Like, I mean, just there was so much that went wrong last year that even just getting to baseline competency is going to feel like a seismic jump for Nebraska in the third phase.
Dave, probably unanswerable question before we get you out of here.
Hey, but let's ask it anyway.
That's what I do. Schaefer, if Nebraska was at baseline competency in special teams last year, what's the record?
I mean, I think they win the Illinois game.
You probably win Iowa.
You win Iowa. So, I mean, that would put them at what, 9-4? I mean, they would have been 8-4.
Regular season.
We don't know who they
What the
play. I mean, they probably get an SEC team in the bowl game, and that's a little different than Boston College, but we'll say at least 8-4 in the regular season. I mean, it cost them games. And you could make an argument that games like UCLA and other ones, because you just couldn't rely on special teams to do things for you. I mean, it hurt them in that. It hurt them against USC. And not just because of kicks or anything like that, just field position. I mean, it hurt them in all of the games they played in. Who's to say they don't beat Ohio State if they didn't have a better day on special teams, or someone makes a play on special teams? I mean, so it's not just the ones that stand out because you missed a kick here or there. It's the entirety of the season. You went into every game being the worst special teams unit in the game. And that's really bad when you're playing in a conference like the Big Ten, where the special teams is a huge part of the whole thing.
That's Mike Schaefer, Husker247. Schaefer, great stuff as always. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Take care. Thanks for having me on.